Nature underpins our very existence. Our forests, rivers, oceans and soils provide us with the food we eat, the air we breathe and the water we need for our crops to grow. We have existed within nature since the beginning of time, and yet in today's highly technical, impeccably designed world, we are quite divorced from it. But we're beginning to realise the vital importance of incorporating nature into our lives. There is a growing body of research that shows that exposure to the natural world isn't woo-woo. It's scientifically proven to benefit our mental and physical health. In a study that was published of 20,000 people by the University of Exeter, they found that people that spent 2 hours a week in green spaces were substantially more likely to report good health and psychological well-being than those that didn't. Today, there is ongoing evidence that regular immersion in nature can help us not only live longer, but the phytoncides, which are the natural chemicals released from trees, can actually boost our immune system. Other research shows that appreciating the wonders of nature can help us to think more positively. Whilst not everyone has a forest on their doorstep, just having plants and beautiful flowers inside our homes can boost our well-being and enhance creativity too. And one person that knows this only too well is florist and author Willow Crossley. Hugely passionate about the beauty and the wellness wonders of nature, in this podcast, Willow chats to me about the restorative powers of nature, how it can counteract technology, and why she never feels more alive and creative than when she is surrounded by flowers. Welcome to Ways to Feel More Human. I'm Susanna Taylor, and today I am utterly delighted to be joined by my next guest. Florist, author, designer, and all-round nature lover, my friend Willow Crossley is best known for her incredible, wild and whimsical floral displays, which are often bursting with colourful and beautiful blooms. One of the busiest people I know, she's the author of 4 books, including her most recent, The Wild Journal, A Year of Nurturing Yourself Through Nature. If she's not hosting incredible workshops for brands, Willow is planning online courses, editing her online lifestyle magazine, The Seedling, or artfully curating an edit of beautiful tableware for her online store, willowcrossley.com. Hugely passionate about the wonders of nature and living seasonally, Willow is a very elegant force of nature herself, and she's here to talk to us about why we as humans need the beauty and magic of nature in all our lives. Willow, welcome. I'm so excited to have you here.
I'm so excited to be here, Suze. Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. It's a pleasure. Willow, when I think of you surrounded by an abundance of wild, colourful flowers. And I just wanted to know, is nature something that you've always been interested in? When you were a child, did you spend hours out in the garden or not?
Yes, a bit of both. I grew up in Wales, very, very rural Wales in the middle of nowhere. And my parents have always been been outside all the time, crazy gardeners, just loved it. And when I was really little, I found it a bit boring, and we'd be dragged on walks and kind of mushroom hunting and playing in the streams and things, which I mostly loved. And it's definitely formed what I do today. But I think at the time I wanted city and pavements more than what I had. But then kind of going over it and looking back, that all my favourite memories are kind of nature inspired, the kind of playing in the rivers and the beachcombing and the hunting for mushrooms and all that kind of stuff. So I think it has always been there, yeah.
Oh, how lovely. Sounds amazing. And then so tell me a little bit about how you became a florist. Because actually we worked in the same building, didn't we? We worked at Vogue House.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure, because you're younger than me. I'm not sure it was at the same time. So how did you go from being London Willow? I can't imagine London Willow, knowing what you're like now in the countryside, to being out here Willow. Did you set up the floristry business whilst you were still in London?
No, so I went to fashion school. I went to London School of Fashion, did a degree there in fashion journalism. When I was little, all I wanted to do was fashion. I wanted to be a fashion designer. And I spent all my days kind of drawing outfits and wanting a magazine. So I went from fashion school into Vogue House and working on lots of different magazines, never very successfully at all. But that was the world that I wanted to be in. And then Charlie, my husband, but boyfriend at the time, upped and left London and moved to South France. where 6 months later I followed him, and I had to leave everything behind me in London. So all my kind of fashion, I was doing beauty as well, left all that behind and started completely from the beginning again. I'm like a magpie to collect things, but I'm very drawn to kind of beautiful things. And I started collecting fabrics and trinkets and making things from them, selling all the bit. I was making like bags and fabric cover books and things. So I had to get these little snippets of fabric that I couldn't do anything with other than make tiny little things. And I started writing about that at the same time and selling all my stuff on the beach. And my literary agent, Claire, saw this at the time and said, I could see your blog as a book. And that's where I started writing books. And they kind of morphed from craft and lifestyle into interiors and decorating. And when I was writing my second book, in there was a whole section on floristry. And when I was writing it, I just knew that this is what I was meant to be doing. I had 2 small boys at that point. I was doing a bit of fashion styling, personal shopping, interior design, kind of story of my life, spreading myself way too thin. And I had this kind of eureka moment that I'm going to stop everything and I'm going to focus on this. Charlie gave me a week at flower school. So I went to the Covent Garden Flower Academy for a week.
Oh, amazing.
And that was it. And I've kind of never looked back. So when I was writing my second book, I had a mutual friend of ours, Alice, was working at Topology, and she really supported me. And they launched my books and I started doing workshops with them. And I kind of, that thing of when you work with one amazing brand and they support you, it's like buses, they all come along at once. And I started getting approached by other great brands, and it just all happened. It kind of grew, and I started doing events for people and workshops. And yeah, I've just carried on doing the same ever since, which is probably like 10 years ago. And then one of my best friends asked me and my mum to do her wedding. That was like the first job I had to do. No idea what I was doing.
On your own?
With my mum, yeah.
Oh, sorry, with your mum.
Yeah, and she had more of an idea than me, but like quantities and numbers and things was definitely not our forte. We were like plucking numbers and peonies out of the sky. Yeah, and that was it. That was kind of the beginning of it. And then it's just evolved into what it is today, slowly and with no kind of great planning. It's just happened, really.
It's amazing because also you've got your very own style, haven't you? Well, I think of it as very kind of wild and abundant and whimsical, and that's just obviously just you, isn't it? It's not something that you have curated. Have you ever done a neat little bouquet? Or was it?
It's not, but when I went to flower school, it was all, that's what it was. They were kind of teaching us techniques and things, which were great, and all that kind of wiring and proper kind of hardcore floristry, which I don't really do much of today. I remember they had these black square glass vases, and I had to put like 3 crospedia, which are like those yellow balls, in them, kind of grasses, and I just couldn't do it. And they were quite horrified by me kind of wanting to go all over the place and wild. But I think that was 10 years ago, and I think things are becoming a bit freer. But there are definitely still people who love that style of so many people who love that style of kind of neatness. My style of floristry is very like I am. I can't be kind of constrained, and I can't do tight clothing, and I can't kind of be put in a neat box. I need to breathe and kind of, do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I can totally see that in you. But I wanted to ask you what it feels like when you are working with flowers. Because to me it feels like you are painting with flowers almost. It's almost, it's a work of art every time you do something. What does it feel like to you?
I guess it depends what I'm doing it for. So often I've got a client who's asking me to do something, or a massive wedding or something, and you're quite restrained in those, and there are kind of boxes I've got to tick off. But 99% of the time, when I feel my most happiest, I think when I'm creating and actually playing with the flowers. So you have all different types of florists. So you have florists who have like flower shops and things. I'm essentially an event florist. But so much of working towards an event like that is at a computer, and it's on Excel spreadsheets and things. So by the time I've done all that stuff, which can take months, by the time I'm actually there with my secateurs in my hand, with all my vases and things, that is just, it's like magic. Nothing makes me happier. It's heaven, yeah. And I've been so lucky with all my clients who, I think because I've been doing it for so long now, they know if someone comes to me, they're not going to get a tight ball of neat red roses. So they often say, this is my colour scheme, go. and then I can come up with as many kind of wild and insane ideas as I possibly can. And I'm always trying to push myself into working with new flowers or new styles or new anything, because that's what excites me. I'm very impatient and I get bored very quickly. So I need to push myself creatively. Does that make sense?
Yeah. You and I are very similar. I went to St. Martin's and did fashion journalism. Yeah. So we've had a sort of similar background.
Very similar.
Yeah. You refer to flowers often on your amazing Instagram. Willow has this, if you don't follow her, she has this amazing Instagram account, and you often do these quite short but brilliant floral displays on Instagram. And I often see you referring to flowers as she. Like, she's a beauty. You obviously never get tired of flowers, do you?
No, I really don't. And I guess because of what I do, you probably imagine that I play with flowers all day long. And in a dream world, I would. But reality is I don't. So that's the best bit. So when I'm playing with them, it's just total joy. It genuinely, it just fills me with so much happiness and calm. And that's my meditating and my mindfulness. That's what it is. I'm in my studio and it's surrounded by all my stuff. And I was playing this weekend in there, and I feel so lucky that I can call that work, because it's such an amazing thing to do. It's very calming, and yeah, I'm very lucky.
So, I mean, similarly to you as well, if I have to do a lot of digital stuff and if I have my head in Excel spreadsheets, it actually makes me panic. I can't really deal with it. It's like my brain freezes over, because I have, like you, I have a kind of creative mind that's constantly firing off ideas and things. And when you try and sort of constrain it into looking at Excel spreadsheets, I just feel stifled. Is that how you feel?
Completely. And more, I don't know if you find that I have this kind of physical reaction to my phone, to my laptop, and I can probably do 2 hours without, and then I have to get out. I just can't concentrate. My mind will just switch off, and I have to go outside or go for a walk or go and play in the woods or just walk in the woods. Yeah, I can't do it. I know the technology is wonderful in so many ways, but it's also incredibly damaging. And I find personally, it's my worst thing, that I just need to kind of balance it. It takes a bit of managing that, because I can spend days and days and days on my screen, and it's really bad for my mental health.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I find as well that phone-wise, I'm now really enjoying actually saying, no, I'm putting that away, and I'm going to go for I'm really enjoying being offline.
I don't know about you, but if it's there, I will pick it up. It's like it's not a conscious, it's a subconscious thing. So now at night, I would leave it upstairs in my bedroom, and I'll come downstairs so I can watch telly, do whatever I can without picking it up. And if it's out of sight, out of mind type thing. But it's awful, this kind of addiction to it that we all have. I scare myself sometimes with how many times I find myself picking it up.
Yeah, same. I read a report that said people are spending less time in natural environments since COVID. I mean, I wonder if digital has, a lot to do with that. How important do you think it is? How important is it to you to be out in nature?
Oh God, it's like day and night. I give myself 2 kind of walks a day. I factor in. I am mostly the most shambolic person, and I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants, or I'm just cramming everything in. I've got 3 boys and work. You know how it is. Yeah. But at least 2 walks a day is my absolute non-negotiable thing.
2, that's amazing.
I have to. I do it first, and actually, when it's so gorgeous and light at the moment, I've been getting up before everyone else and taking Poppy, our dog, out for a walk. And even if it's like 10, 15 minutes, but the difference it makes to how I feel. And I try not to pick up my phone first thing. It's my alarm clock. And the difference in not doing that is huge too. But I find it properly healing. I wrote my book about exactly that, the kind of power nature has over us. And on a personal level, it's so healing and so restorative and transformative. I genuinely believe that. Do you know what I mean? Same here, isn't it?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think I love nature so much. I think my kids are like, "Oh, Mum, shut up," because I'm constantly saying, "God, look at that beautiful hydrangea bush."
yeah, it's funny. And I remember when we were little, my mum was just the same, and we'd be like, "Oh God, it's so boring." And now I'm like, "Oh my God, it's like this is me." As humans, we are wired to need nature. It's that concept of biophilia, isn't it? We suffer without it. So kind of incorporating it into your life, it's just got to be something that we all do. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a walk. It's kind of bringing nature into our lives, tiny little bits, like kind of houseplants or watching the stars, or there are so many little ways of bringing it in that it doesn't need to be a huge thing.
Yeah, totally. Totally. Do you always have flowers in the house?
Yeah, I do. Like kind of during the winter months, I'll have a lot of plants, so bulbs like kind of hyacinths and paperwhites and all that. And then, so I kind of go through the year. So now it's filled with roses, and obviously we've just come through tulips, and we've got dahlias coming up. There's always something. And then if there's nothing, I've always got dried flowers. So I've got huge like dried hydrangea installations everywhere. They've all been there for years now. They're kind of needing a refresh. They're getting a little
Dusty.
too brown. Yeah,
A bit dusty.
And I fill the house with very natural, nature kind of inspired stuff. So all everything's wood or linen. There's no kind of man-made fibers everywhere. I've got, you can't see it here. Yeah, I've got flowers on my wallpaper, and I've got birds on our kitchen, and it's kind of everywhere. It looks a bit like a jungle when you come into our house.
That's so amazing. Has nature helped you with mood over the years? Because I know you've spoken before about how, I think when you were in France and you suffered really quite badly from postnatal depression, did nature help you at that time?
Well, it definitely did. But at the time, I'm not sure I recognised that. I think with hindsight, there were little things that I was drawn to doing. So kind of getting out and walking and kind of lying in the grass or doing grounding, just little bits. And I would slowly notice more and more around me. I'd notice the green, and I would try and practice being, so that I can't meditate. I don't know if you can, but we've just done a whole podcast all about meditation, and I have actually restarted because I learnt years ago properly, and then I fell off the wagon, and now I'm back on it. But I just haven't managed to get there. I will, but so mindfulness was and is my kind of my meditation, I guess. I would watch the cloud, when you make the clouds into different things, and just tiny, tiny little things. And gradually, the stronger I felt, the more I would go out. And it was this kind of cycle that made me feel better bit by bit. But I know that had I been locked up at a desk in an office, I would have taken 10 times longer to heal, for sure.
So one thing that I actually want to delve into in this podcast, I don't think as human beings that we're using our hands enough. Well, we're using our thumbs for swiping, but we're not using our hands enough and not doing creative things. When you are doing your floral displays, it's very, when I say physical, I don't mean physical as in like exercise, but it's that you use your hands so much. How important is that to you, using your hands? Very.
When I get my secateurs in my hands, I'm never happier than with my secateurs in my hand, but I've recently started painting very badly. But like I know you do, you're an incredible painter. I have an online shop for a lot of the products. I design them, and we have these loving cups that I make, and they're one of my favorite products, but I design them all. I mean, it's probably a very basic way of looking at it, but the fact that you can't do anything else, if you're sitting there with a paintbrush or a pair of secateurs, you can't, it's hard to multitask.
Yeah.
And I think it's that being present, switching off. I think that is, in my mind, why it's so magical and so kind of peaceful. Do you agree with that?
I totally agree with that. And when I, because for anyone listening that might not know, I'm sort of an illustrator on the side, and I've always painted and drawn. It's a bit like, it's literally like sort of breathing for me. It's very second nature, and it always has been. And when I deliver paintings to brands, some people use Illustrator and things like that. I don't know how to do that. It's always hand drawn. So I totally understand the importance of doing things by hand. Yeah, I literally disappear, I think, when I'm painting. Somebody was saying to me, it's what's called flow, and you are just in it. And I go somewhere else. It's like I'm not even here. I'm lost in it for hours sometimes.
Do you sit down and allocate time for it when you do it, or can you, like I sit and paint at the kitchen table with things going around because it's such kind of crappy painting, it's not proper. But for yours, do you treat it like a job, or is it still got that meditative, calming peacefulness to it? Or because you're doing it for other people, it's a completely different thing now?
I do quite like to be on my own when I'm doing it. A friend of ours, Gemma, she paints beautifully, and she does it in the chaos of her home, but I quite like to be on my own because I sort of really cherish it and really don't
It's
want
your
any
me time
distractions.
almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
But has the fact that you do it now, but other people as a job, has that changed the way you feel about it? Has it added a pressure to it?
No, but I think because I don't do it full time, because I do this and journalism and stuff, somebody said to me, don't do the thing you love full time because it makes you not like it anymore. And actually, I think if I was an artist full time, and I have toyed with being an artist over the years, to be honest with you, I've toyed with it many times. Like, should I just give it all up and paint?
Yeah.
And I think I really don't want to hate it. I don't want to fall out of love with it.
It's a very different thing. Like, people are like, oh, being a florist is such a nice kind of airy fairy job. I'm like, I have no idea. It's so physical. It's so hardcore. It's so much about spreadsheets. But it's like you're painting, you're doing it for yourself, which is when I'm playing around and I'm making videos on a Sunday. That is very different from work flowers. It's a kind of fine line, isn't it?
Do you have times where you slightly hate it and get very frustrated by it?
The only time I ever get frustrated is if I can't make my spreadsheets work and I can't work out quantities of things. But no, I've never not loved the floristry bit. I mean, I have a meltdown every time I do a huge event, and the pressure is really, if we're kind of doing a wedding for 500 people and it's boiling hot, and the first piece I always do is often disastrous, and I will cry and have a meltdown, and it's like the end of the world. And then I'm like, I hate this. But 99% of the time, I just find it amazing. And watching all the stuff that you've been working on for months come together is just, there's no better feeling. It's incredible. And with your amazing team, and it's magical. I love it.
Yeah, I mean, you must get put under a lot of pressure for those big events.
I plan and I plan and I plan. And I eat, sleep, drink these when they're big events. It's all I'm kind of all consumed. And I am so obsessed with how it will look that often I over-order in a major way. So I am covered for all eventualities, all disasters.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. This episode is sponsored by This Works. As a beauty and health editor, I've used This Works skincare for many years. Here's why. This Works have studied our circadian rhythms at length, and they create clever products to support our skin around the clock. At the heart of each product is a super blend, a 3-element ingredient system made up of naturally derived and scientifically proven ingredients. Each product is at least 80% natural and uses therapeutic aromatherapy fragrance to enhance our mood. 2 of my favourites from the range are the Perfect Body Vit C Glow for smoother, brighter, softer skin, and also the Perfect Legs Skin Miracle, a bronze-tinted multivitamin serum that adds superior radiance and polish to skin and suits all skin tones. It has saved my lackluster legs too many times to mention. Head to thisworks.com to find out more. This episode is also sponsored by BAM Activewear. I have worn BAM Activewear for many years and love this brand for many reasons. At the heart of BAM are a passion for people and the planet. With sustainability at the core, they make luxurious, fully traceable activewear made from natural or recycled fabrics. They are B Corp certified, support fair wages, and do everything they can to conserve natural resources, protect biodiversity, and eliminate harmful pollution. On their website, you can see exactly who has made the products through every step of the manufacturing process. But importantly, wearing BAM clothing is a complete joy. They use seriously soft bamboo and organic cotton in timeless colours and prints. It's sweat-wicking and technically brilliant as well. My favourites are the Enduro Deep waistband leggings and the Origin bamboo vests, all of which I work out in, walk in, and work from home in. Basically, I live in them. Head to bambooclothing.co.uk to find out more. So what about gardening? Are you a keen gardener?
I love it, and more. I think for the last 4 years, I'm going, right, January 1st, this is my year, that's what I'm going to do. But life is so full on, and I do find that you need quite a lot of time and it's a full-time job, a garden. But we've got 3 small boys who are sport obsessed. So most of our garden is filled with cricket nets, football goals. So it's very much their garden. But then this year we've planted a kind of little cutting garden bit. I picked my first sweet peas last night, and it's looking amazing. And the joy that it's bringing me is another level.
Yeah, if anyone should have a cutting garden, you need to have a
I know
cutting
it's
garden.
embarrassing that I don't, isn't
Yeah.
it? We don't have the space to do. My dream would be to have enough space to grow for events, but because I tend to do events that are massive, I mean, it would wipe me out in one go. So I have lots of incredible local growers who I work with all the time who can give me thousands of one stem at once.
Amazing.
I want to be able to grow enough to have flowers in the house all year round, and I'm slowly getting there. And it's that thing, isn't it? It's kind of the more you do, the more you learn. And so in a couple of years, hopefully it will just be filled all year round. You just planted a garden, haven't you?
I have, yeah. I always say that planting or gardening is a bit like having kids. You never actually know what the hell you're doing until you've done it yourself. You can read all the books, but until you've actually like experimented yourself.
So true. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it kind of year on year gets a bit better and you learn more. And yeah, I'll get there in the end, I'm sure.
When we arrived outside our house, it was like a car park. Basically, it was gravel wall to wall, and we've transformed it.
You've done it yourself, physically yourself, no?
I've planted everything. I mean, we had diggers in to dig it all up and stuff, but I've actually physically planted nearly all the plants myself.
And did you choose all of them? I find it quite hard. So when I do events, I work with plants a lot, and so often they'll come home with me. So the event will be taken down and we'll kind of re-gift the flowers, but the plants will come to me. So there's very little cohesion because I can't bear to see them waste. So I'm like, oh, it's fine, just chuck it in the border. But kind of if I was to start again, I find there's so many flowers and plants that I love and I want them all. How did you find
that? Has been that has been an incredible thing, actually, to be able to plant a garden from scratch with all the flowers you love.
Was it easy?
Well, to be honest with you, it wasn't as hard as I thought, but I think it's a little bit of a kind of a non-windy microclimate there. So everything's flourishing. The roses are flourishing. And I planted it all sort of colours that I love. And
what colour did you go for?
No, they're quite soft. They're sort of pinks and blues and some sort of apricot-y colours and white and purple and lots of grasses and greens and roses. I'm obsessed with roses.
They're so good now, aren't they? This time of year is just the best.
Incredible. So what's in your cutting garden right now?
I've got towers of nasturtiums. I'm obsessed with nasturtiums. So I've got a lot of them that I spent most of my year trying to get the slugs not to eat them and growing them everywhere. So I've got nasturtiums. My phlox are about to come out, creme brulee phlox, that kind of peachy.
Amazing.
So beautiful. And then I've got lots of sweet pea towers, a few kind of the dark black sunflowers.
Amazing.
Loads of Ami, Nicotiana tobaccos, dahlias going in. And so I've got 2 beds and Chazzy's got 2 beds for vegetables. So he's on veg, I'm on flowers. And we compete who has the best ones.
It's like the allotment at Willow Crossley's.
It is. It's good. We're getting there.
So what if people don't have like a garden and they can't have a cutting patch and what have you got any ideas for bringing smaller elements of nature into our lives?
I think the key is always to start small because it's very easy to get overwhelmed and have these great grandiose plans and then you're like, oh God, I've run out of energy and time. And so start small. So I'd start kind of get some herbs. They have these amazing kind of indoor herb boxes now where you can have very little space you do on the kitchen table, but they like light, so you want a good windowsill. So I'd always start with some herbs maybe, and then just get out in nature would be my biggest thing. Go for a walk. Even if you're in a city, there's always green space or courtyards, or you can find something anywhere. Go kind of ground yourself, take your shoes off and literally walk in the flat or lie down. If you think of the earth as a kind of giant battery, it literally charges us, that kind of energy. It's very healing.
Oh yeah, I think people think that that's a woo-woo concept. Yeah. It's actually just not. It's actually science.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I would start sowing some seeds if you want kind of one up from the herd. Start with something really simple like cosmos or sweet peas or sunflowers. You had children do sunflowers in school. They do it because it is so simple and that's very kind of instant gratification. They grow super quick. I love swimming outside. I don't really like calling it wild swimming because it's literally just outside, but yeah, I love that kind of go to the sea. I mean, we live bang in the middle of the country. We're so far from sea, but find a kind of a river or a any bit of kind of cold therapy, to me, is what I'm really crave doing at the moment. If I've had a really long week, I'll try and fling myself in the nearest bit of cold water.
Yeah, I crave that as well.
Do you?
I think it's no accident that people are craving that now. I was talking to somebody on this podcast about why is everyone into breathing and cold water swimming, and he was saying because we're so dysregulated because of the amount of tech, and that we are looking for ways to feel more human.
Yeah.
Of a better word.
Yeah.
A better phrase.
We really are. But I don't know if you agree with this. I found for the last few years, definitely, it's been this thing of everyone trying to be like celebrating, God, I'm so busy, I don't have time for this, blah, blah, blah. Do you know what I mean? But now I feel that people have like hit a wall and they are actively trying to slow down and trying not to be busy and have endless plans. And I definitely am being far more thoughtful about saying yes and no to things, because I know that taking on too much kind of work and children is so full on as it is, that by the end of the week, by Friday at like 4 o'clock, I can barely string a sentence together. So I think we are, be it consciously or subconsciously, we are trying to slow down, trying to de-tech and more kind of do the things that we've just been talking about it, because otherwise we're all just going to burn out. And I burn myself out at least once a year, and it's not fun.
How does it feel when you burn out?
It's horrific. I've done it twice properly, and it's weirdly always been, or both times it's been in January. And the first time I did it, I had just been feeling a bit low and just overwhelmed. You know, when I just can't slow the thoughts and the chatter in my head. And it's always after kind of, so Christmas for me is mad with events, and I find it very hard to say no. And I kind of have these 2 times of year where I kind of have to make hay, you know, which is what I've just done, which is May, kind of Chelsea flower time, and Christmas. So it often follows those times, but just go. And the first time it happened, I was feeling a bit rubbish a few days, and I just wanted to be in bed. And I don't lie in bed. I'm up kind of first thing. And I just couldn't stop crying.
Oh my gosh.
I cried for like 3 days. I do exaggerate a lot, but I just couldn't stop. And then I just lost the power of speech. Like there was just nothing. I had nothing left in me.
Wow.
And after a week, I was really scared. And I was in bed, just not functioning, just like a kind of zombie. And then I think after about 3 weeks, I felt like I could get up again. And I was very slow, and which is the complete opposite of, I do everything a million miles an hour, and I don't sit down, and not out of a choice. It's just the way I'm built and the way I'm wired. I'm very kind of active. But so when your body just stops you, it's quite scary. And I think now I recognize when that's happening. So when I know that I'm feeling really overfrazzled, I will shut my laptops off. I will go outside and I will just stop. But it's amazing what it takes to get to that point. Does that make sense?
I know this amazing lady called Nahid de Belgion, and hopefully I'm going to interview her on this podcast at some point. Yeah. And she is a specialist in helping people recover from burnout and anxiety. And she's brought out this brilliant book called Soothe. You should get it. And it's about how to incorporate techniques into our lives so that we don't reach that point.
Okay.
I was asking her about burnout at an event recently, and she said that so much cortisol is released into your body and so much adrenaline that you eventually overloads your system and then you kind of shut down.
Yeah.
And that's basically what would have happened to you.
Yeah. You have zero control. But I remember in the kind of run up to those, it's like someone has injected me with adrenaline. You're lying there all the time, even when you're trying to be calm and you're trying to do grounding and all that kind of stuff. And it just, nothing works. It's completely overrided you. So yeah, that makes total sense.
I'll introduce you to her. She's amazing. Yeah. She's amazing. And then what, sorry, come on.
I was thinking what is like talking about how they do flower arranging in rehab for depression. It's that against that work with your hands, but also gardening. There's a natural chemical in soil that releases serotonin. So it's proven to actively be very, very good for us. So I think doing a little bit of gardening, if you're new to it, is a brilliant place to start.
Yeah. I think so. I'm again a bit like you in that I don't stop. And
Yeah.
I'm always thinking of new ideas. And I've just got this creative brain that I can't really switch off. And I kind of really like it because I like being like that. But then it's almost sometimes to my detriment because I never stop. The key to not getting so burnt out is actually managing yourself when you feel well.
Totally.
Because when you feel well, you think, I'm fine. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to meditate. I don't need to breathe. I don't need to whatever. I just feel fine. And then you don't. And then you're back in the same space.
Yeah, you're so right. It's about factoring in those things that we all know exactly what they are, but actually putting them in and not just rushing by. And I think as I get older, I'm realizing that that's like should be top of the importance list.
Yeah. And doing it when you feel good.
Exactly.
Rather than when you're crashing.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, no, I'm too busy. I can't do that. I can't like make myself a proper lunch and I can't get out and do that. But you just have to make yourself, don't you?
And just thinking ahead, Willow, what are your plans for the future? Because I know you've got this incredible, you've got your website, you've got your shop. Mm-hmm. And then you have this amazing magazine called The Seedling, which is an online magazine, which is really inspiring lifestyle magazine. What are your plans?
So my plans are, I think, kind of to carry on as I'm going. My shop is online, and I love creating product for that. And it's always been quite bitty, and it started because I wanted vases. I can't find proper good vases anywhere, so it started with that. And I've always wanted a shop from when I was tiny. When I was kind of thinking about questions that you were asking me earlier. And I was talking to my mum about like my love of nature when I was little, and it all revolved around having a shop. So I would make rose petal scent. So I, like jam jars full of rose petals and water, and they would go brown and disgusting. And I would sit outside the house and sell them.
Did people buy them?
Never. My mum and my dad maybe. And I'd asked like 50p, which was a lot at the time. And then beachcombing. So we grew up going to Tresco on the Scilly Isles. It was like my favourite place on earth. And we would sit and collect shells and then sell them again. So it's all come back to having a shop. So we're going, long story short, I'm developing lots more for the shop, like building proper collections. And it's kind of homeware, tabletop, vases, basically stuff to bring you joy. So there's a lot of colour. We've got some incredible paper flowers, and I'm a bit like a magpie. I kind of have this, like you, I have these ideas, and I'm like, oh my God, I've got to make that immediately. It's about kind of my team are always trying to rein me in and kind of put me back in my box, like, no, you're not making that today. But yeah, so lots more shop stuff. And then we have The Seedling, which is our online. It's like women's lifestyle. So it's all stuff that I love, fashion, beauty, wellness. That's what my kind of background was in. It was in magazines. I used to spend all my pocket money on magazines, and but I'm like you, I'm very paper led. So we talk a lot about making a paper version of the magazine, kind of maybe like a quarterly. I want to be able to hold things, I don't like reading stuff on a screen so much.
Nor do I.
I want to be able to hold it. I want to be able to sit at the kitchen table with a cup of coffee on the weekend and just switch off and read it. So Em, my lovely, she works on it with me. We talk endlessly about doing that. So I think that will come. I love doing events still, so lots of that. Kind of much of the same, but then the way I work is I kind of work myself into the ground term time, and then when the boys are all off on school holidays, I'm with them. So it's kind of very intense bursts, and then when I'm with them, I'm kind of daydreaming. I'm not doing physical workshops and things.
Yeah, that's great.
Broken up into stages. Yeah, I'm very lucky to be able to do that.
That's amazing. Obviously you do consume things online because that's the world we live.
Yeah.
But I find it quite hard to read things online. It's almost like there's a physical block sometimes. If I write something and I want to really digest it, or if somebody sends me an important document, I have to print it out and read it. But it's like it doesn't go in properly unless I've actually got it physically in front of me.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've just come from a meeting with my team and trying to collate us all together. And she's like, I know that you don't want to do a Google Docs or whatever it is, but I will print it out for you. I'm like, okay, fine. I can do that. I have paper diary, paper everything. I carry huge notebooks around with me. It just will not go in on a screen.
Same.
And
I need to speak to some, if there's anyone out there listening to this who's an expert in that, I'd love to, because there's something that my brain doesn't compute.
Me too. It's got to be a thing. I mean, I drive everyone insane by, like, can you do something in 2 weeks? So I'm like, I haven't got a clue. I need to check in my diary. I can't. It doesn't go in my head. You know, when you format your week in your head, you know what's going on. If it's on the screen, it's just gone. I'll miss it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you have that too.
No, I completely have that. I do actually have, I hate it though, I do have the online diary because I've had to, for brands and people that I work with. Sometimes you have to put like digital things in your diary, and I've had to.
Yeah.
But I actually want to go back to a written
diary. I have a backup. I found one, my lovely agent Andrea uses Time Tree, and that's quite a good one because it's quite visual.
Don't know that. Yeah,
have a look at that one. We're going to move on to that one for a different thing as well. It's a goodie.
Okay. Amazing. Listen, Willow, one last question that I'm asking all of my guests is, when do you feel most human?
I think on holiday, by the sea. I think at Tresco and Scilliar's with all my boys, Chazzy, by the sea, collecting cowrie shells. Yeah, a good 2 weeks. I find that you like proper luxury switch off 10 days minimum. We have 2 weeks there, and that's my proper happy place.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, on holiday. No screen and a shell and a sea. Cold swim shell. Yeah.
Amazing. That's being
Where's
human.
yours?
I think either in the garden, I love being surrounded by like wild cow parsley, or walking through like frothy cow parsley or things like that. Like, it's almost like kind of moments of feeling like that, or being up in our garden, it's like a field and it's got lots of wild grass everywhere. But also being away on holiday somewhere warm as the sun's going down.
Yes.
And the glitter is on the sea.
Oh.
And it's probably 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yes.
And there is something about that time, that place, and I don't know, something totally magical about that.
Timing of the day is really important, isn't it? And I think it kind of goes back to when, if you've got small children, you've got to that point in the day where they're fed and they're bathed, and it's like, you can breathe.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's that. I was walking to the woods this morning, and it's that kind of hit of, I don't know what it is, endorphins from, it's like when you said the cow parsley thing just now, so I completely resonate with that. It's snippets of moments, isn't it, that you know you're going to get them, be it on the beach or on a walk or in your garden.
I guess it's interesting because those are the times we're out in nature.
Always.
Yeah.
Always.
And you feel very connected to the world. I think that's probably what it is.
Yeah, it's never when you're on the underground or on a skyscraper, is it?
No. Willow, thank you so much for joining us. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a treat. Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Willow. Here's a quick recap of my conversation with Willow. Willow spoke about why we as humans are wired to need nature in our lives. The powers of nature should not be underestimated. It helped Willow to recover from postnatal depression. Today, Willow says walking twice a day is a non-negotiable for her. She says we don't need tons of space to reap the benefits of nature. Herbs on the windowsill or fresh flowers can really boost our well-being and our mood. Willow spoke about her horrible experience of extreme burnout, and we both agreed that too much tech, especially the dreaded Excel spreadsheets, can completely fry some of our brains. The bottom line is this: get offline and get outside, or bring nature into our lives as much as is humanly possible. And that's it for today. Look out for the next podcast. And in the meantime, stay human.